Today I'm going to talk to you and give you some great information on how to fix that slice. And we're going to do it specifically with 3 setup keys, what we call for the draw. 3 setup keys to help you start drawing the golf ball. Specifically, we're going to talk something to do with your feet. We're going to talk about the position of the handle at address, and we're also going to talk about some pressure on the feet. And these are 3 easy things that you can do that will immediately change your ball flight and help you start to hit a nice high draw. Now, before we dive into this though, it's important that we do a quick review of the ball flight laws. Now, for some of you, if you've watched a lot of our videos before, because we've got a lot of great information on our website at US Golf TV or on our social media also, if you're following us, some of this is going to be a little bit of review. But for those of you who've maybe never heard this, it's important that we review it. So when we hit a golf ball, there's 2 key components that we're looking at that determine the curve of the golf ball. The first one that we want to look at is the face. Where is the face pointed at impact? Now, the reason that's important is because the golf ball starts predominantly based on where the face is pointed. Now, based on who you ask and what club you're hitting, that can range, that percentage of where the golf ball starts relative to the face is anywhere from 60% to upwards of 95%, depending upon, like I said, who you ask and what club you're hitting. But the thing to remember is that basically the golf ball starts where the face is pointed at the moment of impact. So that's number 1, the face control. The second thing that we need to look at is what we call the path. Now, the easiest way to understand the path is the direction that the club, the direction of the sweet spot, let's think about it like that. The direction of the sweet spot is traveling at the moment of impact. All right, and that direction, of course, could be at the target, it could be to the right of the target, or it could be to the left of the target. Those are my 3 options, right? And the same way with the face. The face can be at the target, at impact, it can be to the right of the target, or it can be to the left of the target. So those are kind of our variables. Now, here's what you need to know. You've got 2 components, face and path. When the golf ball curves, it's because there's a difference between the 2. So if I have a club face that is pointed to the right of the target, let's say 2 degrees, and I have a path that is to the left of the target, let's say 4 degrees, I've got the face 2 degrees to the right, I've got the path 4 degrees to the left. I've got a separation of those roughly of 6 degrees. 2 to the right, 4 to the left. The difference there is roughly 6 degrees. That's going to produce some form of curve. Now, in this particular example, that's going to produce a pretty big slice, assuming you hit the golf ball in the center of the face. So when we hit a draw, what we're really looking for is, I believe, ideally is in a path, a direction the club is traveling, that would be to the right of the target. So these things that we're talking about here all promote that. Now, if your desired shot is not a draw, then this video is not for you. If you slice the golf ball and you want to draw the golf ball, then this is for you. So let's dive into that. Now that we kind of understand some basic ball flight laws and review. Like I said, if you're kind of lost in that discussion right there, be sure to check out our website. Our other videos, we've got a lot of them where we dive in depth on the ball flight and really explain it to you, some great visuals, things like that. But let's get into the main topics here, the 3 setup keys for the draw. So the first one is what I'm going to call is toes out. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that golfers make, especially kind of weekend golfers, is that they have their toes what I'm just going to call straight. Their toes are pointed straight out. The first suggestion is to flare your toes out a little bit. Now, when you point them out, how much? A lot of that depends on your swing style, your flexibility, your body build, but as a general rule, I'm going to say 15, 20, 25%. So now the reason for that is when the toes are pointed out, that allows the body to turn. That allows your body to rotate. And when the body rotates, that helps move the club in and around. What a lot of golfers do who slice the golf ball is they have their toes straight ahead, all right? And when they go to turn, when their toes are straight ahead, it locks the hips in, it locks the legs in, and then they can't rotate, they can't move. And so what happens is they start to lift their arms. And once you start lifting your arms, you can create a lot of issues in learning and basically trying to get the golf club back into a position to draw the golf ball. So here's what we take away from that. when you get set up, take your toes, flare them out a little bit, 15, 20, 25 degrees. That's going to allow you to turn your pelvis more, which is going to allow you to turn your upper body more. It's going to help get the club in a better position on the backstroke, and definitely is going to help you shallow the club a little bit coming into the downstroke. All those things are designed to help get that club moving to the right of the target if you're a right-handed golfer. So that's tip number one. Point your toes out a little bit. The second one is what I call high handle. And this is pretty interesting because it has to deal with the angles of the wrist. So when we hold the golf club, I'm going to kind of do this up here at eye level so you can hopefully kind of see this. But when the handle's kind of what I'm going to call high or raised this way, all right, that allows me to flatten my lead wrist, which for me is my left wrist. And when the lead wrist is relatively flat, okay, that's going to promote more of a square to closed club face. When the lead wrist is in this position, cupped position, is kind of a generic term that golfers will use. Extended would be more of the scientific term, but cupped, that promotes a club face that is a little bit more open. All right, so when the lead wrist is kind of flat, that's going to create more of a square club face or closed. When it's extended, that's going to open up the club face a little bit. Now, let me say this, because I've done a lot of videos about strong grips, weak grips, and we get some great interaction and some great discussion on that. You can play good golf from a variety of different positions. We've seen that every week when we watch golf on TV. So I'm not saying that, you know, the wrist angle, this or that, it has to be a specific way to play good golf. What we're talking about is for somebody who's trying to draw the golf ball. What's going to help the majority of those people? So let's get back to this high handle setup. So when the hands, let's look at the opposite. When the handle is low, in order to get that handle to go low, the only way for me to really do that is to put my wrist in that position where it's cupped or extended. And as we've just learned, when it's cupped or it's extended, based on a relatively neutral grip, the club face will tend to get open. All right, and that can cause some real issues with trying to draw the golf ball. So that's tip number 2, is when you're set up, just feel like the handle is maybe slightly higher than you might normally have it. All right, the third one is what we call here at the Academy, we call this 60-40. And we use the phrase 60-40 to help relay a message. And what we're talking about is the pressure on the feet. Now, when we just kind of stand up, when I just take a normal stance, okay, unless for the most people, the natural position here, they're going to have about 50% pressure on their left foot, 50% pressure on the right foot. And if I kind of pick up my left leg, okay, now all my pressure is on my trail foot or my right foot, and I can, of course, can do the opposite, where all my pressure is on my lead foot. So in the address position, we use a phrase called 60-40. So we like our students, and I'm going to suggest if you're trying to draw the golf ball in your setup, you should feel like you've got a little bit more pressure on the lead foot comparative to the trail foot. Now, what's the exact amount? If it's 60-40, that's awesome. If it's 55 forward, 45 back, that's great. Even if it's 50-50, that's acceptable. All right? The point of the 60-40 is to help people understand that they need to be pretty balanced on their feet, and if anything, a little bit forward. Because the majority of people who slice the golf ball start with a lot of their pressure on their trail foot. Now, here's the key to this. It undoubtedly, without argument, okay, the best ball strikers in the world at the moment of impact have the majority of their pressure, which you as a golfer probably feel as weight, the majority of their pressure at the moment of impact is on their lead foot. That is undeniable. All right, that is undeniable. The other thing that's undeniable, in my opinion, is that the majority of people who slice the golf ball at the moment of impact have a lot of their weight, or i.e. pressure, on their trail foot at the moment of impact. So if we know the best ball strikers have their pressure on their lead foot, people who slice the golf ball have it on their trail foot, okay, I'm going to go towards the best ball strikers in the world. All right? Now, one other thing I want to talk about with this, because we get some great, we've done, like all these topics here, we've done some real in-depth ones on each one of these, all right? The 60-40 one, we've done a lot. I get a lot of questions about that. When we swing the golf club, all right, there's a variety of ways to do it. There's a variety of ways to do it. I believe that this pressure does move. It doesn't stay 60-40 the whole time. When you swing the golf club, you don't stay on your lead foot the whole time. We're not saying that. We're saying it does move. But what we're saying is that at the beginning of the swing, at the setup, let's have a little bit more left so that at impact, we can be quite a bit more left than we are, all right? So let's do a quick review here of these 3 setup keys for the draw. We've talked a little bit about ball flight, what is actually happening when we slice the golf ball, or any form of curve in the golf ball. 3 simple things we can do immediately to help you tomorrow start getting a better shot. Get your toes out. When you're set up, point those toes out a little bit. That will allow you to rotate your body easier. It's going to help you get the club in a much better position at the top. It's going to definitely help you shallow it out coming down. That's an easy one to do, and it's a very common one I see a lot of. Number 2, raising the handle just slightly. Understanding that when you lower the shaft angle, really the only way to lower that shaft angle, I find anyhow, is to what we call extend the lead wrist or cup the lead wrist, and that gets the club face basically in an open position at the top of the backswing. I don't think that's good if you're trying to draw the golf ball. And then understand pressure on the feet. At the moment of impact, we want to see pressure definitely into that lead foot. That's going to help us swing the club to the right and draw the golf ball. Starting with a little bit more left than right, I think is a good idea. So these are 3 things you can do, super easy, that you can implement immediately in your setup and to help you draw the golf ball.